Hey everybody, it's Maggie from Personal Euphoria with today's plank story. So it's a long one, I think, so let's get going. We'll get right into it. Here we go. All right, so if you tuned in Tuesday, you heard all the mishaps and chaos of our RV trip out to the Midwest. Today you get sort of the highlight tour. So it really felt like we were on like a cruise of the Midwest. We covered about 5,000 miles in 13 days. It would be like drive through a state, get off, oh, you have a half day at this destination, and then get back on. And really, that was an okay way to do part of this country because there's long swaths where there's not much to do. But the highlight reel, we did stop and have a game of catch at the Field of Dreams field in Iowa. That was one of my favorite things. Not only have I not had a game of catch in like a decade, and that is fun, but there is just magic to that movie and that location. We stayed at the largest truck stop in the world in Iowa, which was awesome. And we mostly stayed at truck stops, which I found fun. In Nebraska, we went to Carhenge, which sounds a little cheesy, but was pretty cool, where a man basically recreated Stonehenge out of cars. It's worth Googling. It's kind of neat. And then we saw a toadstool. I can't remember if it's a state park, but it's these rock formations and you can hike around. And that was pretty neat. Then we went to Wyoming and did Devil's Tower, which was much cooler than I expected. You might not think you're familiar with it, but it's in the end of the movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So Matt really wanted to go, and I was like, oh, we're doing so much driving. It's just a rock. Why are we going to drive extra? I mean, like, I'm sure it's a neat rock, but like, how much can you drive for a rock? And he was like, I think it's going to be pretty cool. We got out there. It was cool and worth the extra miles, and the whole area is beautiful. So from there we went to South Dakota. We went to Deadwood, a little touristy. It's all right, I could have passed on that. Mount Rushmore was cooler than I expected. You can kind of walk around and see it from all different angles. I kind of thought it would just be a tourist trap, but I was impressed with the artistry of what people created out of stone. We stopped and saw the Crazy Horse Monument in the works. Neat to see a monument in the works, but also a little disappointing because it's not finished and you can only see it from far away. So it's not like as cool as kind of how close you can get to Mount Rushmore. I wish we had more time in that whole Black Hills area and to go to Custard State Park. That was beautiful, but we carried on to the Badlands, which was the whole point of our trip. We wanted to get to the Badlands. I had this vision of what it would be, and it wasn't what I expected. So in the moment, I was disappointed. I already look back on the Badlands as better than I remember feeling they were in the moment. But that's basically what expectations do for us, right? Like we have these expectations, they don't meet them, and then we're disappointed. We did do some cool hiking, and I enjoyed it. Part of the park was really beautiful, and the wildlife there would just come right up to you. So that was scary and exciting and cool. But because of COVID, they're doing no ranger-led tours, which is one of my favorite parts. So that was disappointing too. So we continued on. We went through North Dakota. We stopped in Fargo, which as far as I can tell, all Fargo has going for it. I'm sorry, Fargo is a wood chipper from the movie Fargo, but we weren't thrilled. We went on to Minneapolis. That was great fun. I would go back again. We drove through Wisconsin. Looked beautiful. It reminded me a little of Connecticut. Randomly, unless just Wisconsin is really big into live music, everywhere we stopped had live music, and that was great and really enjoyable. And then we went up to Upper Peninsula, Michigan, where we took this phenomenal hike in Pictured Rock State Park, where we were on like cliff edge and you could see over Lake Superior, and it looked like the Caribbean. Just aqua-colored water, navy water. It was just absolutely beautiful. So a reminder that our whole country has so much to see and so many beautiful places. But honestly, my favorite part of the trip was driving through North Dakota. We stopped en route to Fargo just to break up the trip in a small town called Judd with population like 78 people or something. And we stopped there because we'd read about how they had murals painted on all their buildings. Well, they're a small town, so they have like 20 buildings and they have a mural on each building. And we pull our RV into town, and there's a post office, and I have some postcards, so I go in, and the woman in the post office says, "Oh, are you here to inspect us?" And I say, "No, I'm just here to mail some postcards." And she's like, "Oh, where are you from?" And we chat a bit, and she's like, "It's really great. Our town has like a 4-hour-a-day post office." She's like, "And we have a little cafe you can stop for lunch." So we go into the cafe, and it looks a little more like a VFW, right? There's 3 folding tables and folding chairs. We're the only ones in there. The waitress comes over and she says, "What do you want to drink?" And I said, "Can I have an iced tea?" We don't have iced tea. I said, "Well, what do you got?" And she says, "Water and coffee." I said, "I'll take a water." Matt asks for a coffee. And his coffee comes out like with grease on the top of it. We don't know what it was. He didn't end up drinking it. And while they did have a few things to order, on our trip, we would stop at places where there would be a sign that says, like, today's menu is grilled cheese. You know, you didn't have a ton of selection. And so she told me the special was ham, scalloped potatoes, and corn. So I ordered that. It was good. And as we're eating, one by one, these older male farmers come in, you know, in jeans and suspenders, and they sit down. I didn't notice them order anything. They were like reading papers. They all sat at the same table. They weren't really chatty with each other. So it was kind of like they had come for this like quiet socialization that was just interesting. And when we left, the waitresses were like, "Oh, we have a ton of corn. Take some ears of corn." So we left with corn and we started to walk to look at the murals. And this woman who worked at the bank ran out and said, "Are you guys here to see the murals?" We said, "Yes." She said, "Come on in. I think I have a brochure on that." And we must have talked to her for 90 minutes just about what was it like living in Judd? What was COVID like for them this past year versus us in Connecticut? And in addition to working at the bank, she and her husband raised 150 head of cattle. And it was just this nice conversation with another person living a very different life, right, than suburban Connecticut, where we have 5 movie theaters at our fingertips all the time, you know? So anyway, it was a good trip. It was a whirlwind tour, but those are the highlights. And now you've done a 6-minute and 50-second plank. I'm pretty sure that's our longest story. Thank you so much for listening if you stuck through to this point. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Keep moving.